Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I, the armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact, that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and born by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Hi, everybody. That is a heart-wrenching video, a tribute to our servicemen and women from the past into the future and now presently who serve our country. And we thank you. We honor you today on Veterans Day 11/11. And hello, everybody. Welcome. Buenos días, buenas tardes del True Channel del show de la Vane. Hoy Vanessa está preocupada y a lo mejor sí nos regresan un ratito, pero por mientras we're going to be together here. And I just want to make sure that the video is actually still playing, because I was watching it. I was trying really hard not to cry because of all of the things that are associated with remembering remembering the lives that were given for truth and for liberty and for justice and for the freedom to govern ourselves, I don't think it's ever happened, to govern ourselves. And while we were watching that video, I went to Deuteronomy 11:11. So today is November 11th. And so a lot of people like to point out the double digits. And he did, President Reagan in the voiceover did mention that it was a very deliberate appointment, the day 11:11, for on the 11th hour there was freedom. This victory was won. And in Deuteronomy 11:11, it says, love the Lord your God, always do what they were coming after you. He destroyed every one of them. They have not seen what he did to you in the desert until you came to this place. They do not know what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, son of Reuben. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them, those of their house, their tents, and everything that followed them among Israel. But your own eyes have seen all the great work the Lord has done. So it goes on to say, so keep every law which I am telling you today. You will be strong and go in and take the land which is to be yours. You will live long in the land the Lord promised to your fathers and their children, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land you are going in to take is not the land you came from in Egypt. There you planted your seed and watered it using your feet like a vegetable garden. But the land you are about to go into and take for your own is a land of hills and valleys. It drinks water from the rain of heaven. The Lord your God cares for this land. His eyes watched over it from the beginning to the end of the year. And it starts talking about how the children didn't see all of these wonderful works of the Lord. Only the parents saw. So I think it's very fitting that we remember the things that the Lord has done and we tell it to the children. Right now we are living in the brink of another war here on our land because our children do not understand the sacrifices that have been made for truth, freedom, and justice. All of these things that we're facing, the children don't understand what's at stake right now with an election that is being hijacked by a particular group of people, because there's going to be a dismantling of trust in our land if we don't continue to fight. So I just think it's very fitting. I thank you, Vanessa, for sharing that video. And again, once again, buenos dias, buenas tardes, de San Diego a Miami. This is the True Channel. We are Mimi and Vane. And today I am going to be inviting two wonderful guests who are local here in San Diego. And they have become wonderful friends of mine, but we met on the campaign trail. And while I was running for office, these two gentlemen were also running for office. And I've gotten to know them and respect them very highly. They are patriot men. They are men, they are family men, and they are God-fearing men. So you will enjoy listening to them. So I'm going to bring them on now. We have Marco Cisneros, and we also have Henry Martinez. Henry Martinez is we've had him on before. Hi, Marco. Hi, Henry. How are you?
Hey, how are you? How's it going?
Good to see you both.
Great to see you as well.
As my introductions were saying, is that Marco Cisneros, I met you on the campaign trail. You were running for school district, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell us all about that in just a few minutes. And then Henry Martinez, a return guest, he was also running for city council in Chula Vista. So welcome, both of you. And as you know, we have a really amazing turn of events here at election 2020, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about what's going on in the Senate, in the House, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what's going on locally and what happened with you, both of you, and your races. So hello, how are you?
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. So how about if I start with you, Henry? First of all, happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support, and thank you everybody here that's listening. You know, we got to make sure that we honor the ones that pay the ultimate price and never forget. Because of this great country and freedom, that's because of the armed forces of today kept our liberties today. We want to make sure that we never forget the ones that paid the ultimate sacrifice, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, Henry and Marco, so let me hear what your thoughts are right now going on with what you've been hearing about what's going on with the whole elections and some of the states that haven't conceded and so forth. Marco, why don't you start? What have you heard? What do you know?
So I've heard a lot, anywhere from different instances of voter fraud to, oh no, it's a fair election, to, oh, the statistics say this or the people say that. Bottom line is 2016, President Trump, which was President-elect Trump, was on his way to the White House, and the other side refused to say he was the president. Heck, for 4 years, they were saying they were hashtag not his president. And so, God forbid, we as Republicans say, well, hold up, we need to actually, see what's going on in our elections. Oh no, it's already over. It's won. Joe Biden's the president, blah, blah, blah. Well, technically, he's not even the president until the Electoral College votes in December. So if you really want to play that game, he's still not your president. but yeah, I mean, either way, whatever way this ends up going, I'm gonna keep praying and keep keeping the faith and fighting for our country and our values. Whether it be President Joe Biden or President Trump, I as a proud American will support whichever side wins, just so that way I hope for a better future for our country.
Absolutely.
Something you saw a lot was for President Trump. Oh no, I hope he fails. Well, if you say that just because you don't like the guy, that means the whole country fails. So I think we still need to keep level heads, but we do need to go through the election process, and we do need to make sure that it's a fair election for both sides.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point, that regardless of who wins in the end, we do need to come together, because ultimately this is our country. If they fail, we fail. And for anyone to wish ill on another person really is, as they say, is bad karma, because what goes around comes around, Yep. For those of us who are believers, we will continue to pray and continue to do good, because ultimately when we are good to our neighbor, we will reap the benefit of being good. So thank you for saying that. Really quickly, I was listening to one of the commentators on social media earlier. They were in Pennsylvania or Philadelphia, and they were trying to interview the left. And unfortunately, what he discovered is that the left is also censored. They are not hearing what we hear. You mentioned that you're hearing a little bit of both sides. A lot of them only hear one side, and actually they refuse to listen to the other side, whether it's on Fox or OAN or Newsmax or whatever it is out there. They will refuse to listen to it and compare notes and trying to get a little bit more information and, just be well informed. Henry, what have you been hearing, and what do you think's happening out there?
Oh, I've been hearing, I mean, you absolutely hit the door, you hit it right in the spot, right there in the nail, about in reference to things, situation going on, the current political environment in our country. Marco, I don't know what else to add to your thing, but from my perspective, being a moderate, and we have to make sure, and especially being a military veteran now, 32 years, 2 years retired, I always supported and defended whatever president we had each term. Right. So from 1986 to this year, no matter who was the president, I was there to support and defend and support our commander in chief. So to this day, I will carry that on. I will not talk negatively or badly of any candidate. But the one thing is, the people of today, instead of looking at the person, vote the person, not the party. And that's the same thing. It trickled down to me here in the local campaign. Even though it was a great campaign for me, I believe very successful for a first time non-politician person.
Yeah.
So those are the highlights. People were looking at the party vice the person. So that's what my take is, ma'am.
Yes, that's really good. And since you mentioned your race and your campaign, I think it is a good to talk about from your experience. So you have a very mixed bag of people here in the South Bay. We are minutes from the Mexican border, and we have a lot of Latinos, and you know, culturally we are conservative, but politically we vote Democrat all the time. We're seeing ourselves vote more left, which is quite a contradiction if you don't if you ask me. But when you're out there, when you're out there, you know, knocking on doors and talking to people, what did you hear? What did you hear from the people?
Okay, this is where I heard from the people the feedback. You know, even though I'm a moderate, people didn't really understood my message, what I stood for. I stood for the people. I stood for, you know, in Chula Vista, I say the three pillars are of our defense of our city is our police force,
Mm.
right? Our firemen and the first responders, but also to include within that is our public works people in Chula Vista. Without public works, nothing runs in our city, right? They support both other pillars, right? So those three pillars for me was important. That was my message, but somehow it wasn't articulated that way. Most people thought I was more of a extreme white right extremist for some reason. I never was. I'm a moderate person. I'm caring and loving. In reference to that, only because maybe I said I support the blue, and I lost a lot of people because I said
Oh,
that. So supporting the blue was some kind of stigma.
wow.
So for me here in Chula Vista, our police force are very respectful, right? There's no overpowering of power or abusive power. I until this day I will continue to support our public safety. We need them. We cannot abandon our police force. We cannot be without or defunding our police force. I mean, it's kind of hard to have a socialist, not socialist, but a social worker trying to come up to a situation at hand where you know you need a police force that's tactful, not a persuasive in words only. So that was my take. And then two, from a first year, not a politician, right? My daughter in Chula Vista Christian University, yourself, the South Bay Conservatives, were and then you know the Republican Party were the pillars in helping me out for a 43.5% for a first time candidate. So there is a key. The 43.5 is telling to everybody they want change, right? But they weren't so
Yes.
confident of who is Henry Martinez. So that's where I would need my experience and my lessons learned is I need to afford and gather money for a campaign manager. The campaign manager was my daughter, 24 years old, San Diego State University in marketing. So between us, she was my marketing agent. Then, of course, the South Bay Conservatives helped out in other aspects, funding me, providing support for phone banking, texting. Of course, you were there as part of that team. But you, when I met, was it 2 years ago for the Lexit happened? Was it 2 years ago?
It'll be 2 years in January.
That was
Yes.
amazing how time flies. This is where I
I
actually
know.
have that picture in Lexit with you in there, and then holding my sign with all
Or
these
was that
females.
just I can't remember now.
I
Now
know
that you say
it
that.
feels like 2 years, but just around the
Right.
corner. But she, and then of course the Screaming Eagles of South Bay is the what I say opened the door to the journey of life in my campaign to meet Marcos, you, and other great people in my journey. It was a positive journey. One thing I'm going to continue to fight. If if the current and I'm going to support and defend and help our current city councilman to make help our city councilman to do our help us create a positive and bring one thing people didn't understand my message. I said even in the Union Tribune, we need to start healing, bringing people together, unity and with love, because together as a team we can move mountains. Not boulders with just one person. So with the team, with the city behind you, with the instead of divisiveness and then negative words of one another, I am in the middle. The difference between the person that wants less taxes, right, doesn't want Belarus, right? They want more public safety. They want to make sure we hold their educators accountable, right? the school district accountable, small businesses. We need job growth. I mean, I talked to a lot of Democrats, and they want that same thing. And so the question I had the conversation was this: what's the difference between you and me? Because we want the same. It's the party, right? But even Chula Vista, the Chula Vista city council position, is a nonpartisan position. So you, as city councilman, needs to understand whatever decisions you make, it's the decision of the voice of the constituents, the voice of the Chula Vista residents, ma'am.
Yes, yes, Marco. So you were running for South Bay or San Diego Unified School District, and
Yes.
you had a very tricky race ahead of you. I think that yours was, you think that the school board is kind of benign, not so hard. I think you had one of the hardest races to run. I think
Yeah,
you did.
So running for San Diego Unified School District is compared to running for San Diego City Council. It's just such a big district. A lot of school boards, normally they're broken down into elementary school, middle school, high school, or somewhere along those lines. However, for San Diego Unified, it encompasses all of it. So, and then plus it's San Diego, such a big city. And on top of that, we actually had this very unconstitutional and corrupt form of running elections, if you ask me. What I mean by that is, so normally when you're electing an official to represent you, it's by district elections, correct? So you're electing someone who lives in your district. However, and then someone who stands for the district. However, when it came to San Diego Unified Schools, the primary was ran that way. However, in the general, it then goes to a citywide election. So essentially, someone in the north part of San Diego can then elect a person to represent the south side of San Diego. They have no idea who they're voting for. They just know that they have union money backing them, all these advertisements, all this corruption going on, and then the person with the more money, which is usually the teachers' unions and other unions and such, end up taking it all because they got the money to beat out the local candidate who actually cares about the community.
Right. And that's a travesty. And we're seeing that now at a grand scale here with the 2020 presidential elections. But we're seeing it also locally, just as you just mentioned. We have people running in a district they don't even live in. And then not only that, we're seeing people donate from outside of even the country, the state, hundreds of thousands of dollars here locally. There was a candidate here running for city council of a very small community, and I guess it was the unions, to be honest, poured in about $100,000 into this one candidate. And so there's a lot of different types of unethical practices within our election process that just continues to beat down the caring citizen in the standard community in which we live, to where we can't even represent those who we live with. And so that's exactly what happened to you. You were unjustly done. And so what else happened to you in your race?
I remember Mr. Martinez was mentioning that it's not about party, it's about standing for the people, and I'd have to 100% agree with that. However, unfortunately, here in San Diego County, the Republican Party at the time did not agree with that message. Now, what I mean by that is I was the endorsed candidate for the Republican Party for about 2 weeks, and then they pulled my endorsement and ran a candidate against me. Now, if you're not familiar with San Diego politics, the area I was running in is heavily Democrat. Having two Republicans will for sure guarantee you lose. And that's unfortunate. And hey, I have no hard feelings. We got to move forward. We got to stand as a team. We have to stand for our values. However, the fact that other obstacle was there as well did not help anything.
No. And so that brings me to another point that we have to just really look at. So what's happening here, I keep referring to the grand scale elections with the 2020 presidential elections. But if we take it with a microscope and look at it locally, we're seeing the same problems on a local level. And that is with these organizations that have gotten too big for their britches, like our San Diego Republican Party, where they actually undermine what it is that they're supposed to be doing, our efforts as citizens who want to come in and serve our community, and then they they do something like this, like what they do to you, and they've, in a sense, ushered in a Democrat. And it's unfortunately because now in San Diego, especially, and all across California, we saw the Democratic Party by a landslide take seats. I think we've won maybe 3 or 4 in our entire state this election. Oh, I'm not hearing Mario or Marcos. There you go. So I don't know.
Can you hear me now?
Vanessa, yes. What were you
Okay,
saying?
perfect. So basically what I was saying was it is an issue locally. I'm a big believer of every county counts. As you saw in our election, it did come down to every county. Unfortunately, we did have some sort of weird mishaps going on, especially in other states where you see, oh, Republicans aren't allowed in, sorry. So it's just, it's very crucial that we all start becoming aware and we all start paying attention and we all start participating. Because without the participation of our fellow Americans, our republic will fall.
Yes. So as part of we all 3 are just so happen to be a part of the San Diego conservative, or South Bay, actually, because San Diego is so big. We definitely are just South Bay, the conservative group. And one of the things that we like to do is to actually put some tools in the people's hands. What have you discovered being part of this group that has been helpful for you, and also to turn around and to help put tools in people's hands to where they can also go out there and do something within their community to make a difference?
Yeah, so I had the privilege and honor of helping found South Bay Community Conservatives with a really wonderful, great, diverse group of individuals. And what we ended up doing is we all got together one day and we said, hey, what the heck? The party's not helping us south of the 8. It's a major freeway down here in San Diego. South of the 8, we're counted out. Yeah, we're heavily Democrat, but when you talk to the people one-on-one, you end up realizing they side with us. It's just because they're lied to by the party of the Democrats. They're saying, no, you have to vote Democrat because you're Hispanic, Latino, African-American, whatever. That's not reality. When someone like myself or Mr. Martinez goes out and knocks on your door and says, hey, how you doing? Look, this is what I stand for. These are my values. Can you please give me your vote? I'm pretty sure, I can't speak for Henry, but for me, you got my vote. It's great. I'm glad someone's actually here, actually wanting to participate. So what we did with South Bay Community Conservatives is we then gave the tools necessary to help candidates like myself, Henry, help us get elected. So we're a very small group. We just started up, but we're starting to see results. We have a very competitive water board race in Otay, where the candidate that we were helping, last I checked, was winning. He's beating the incumbent. And that's a hard thing to do in politics for those of you that are involved. Beating incumbents is almost unheard of. So we're proud of that, and we helped Mr. Martinez. And unfortunately, we weren't fully established for my campaign. I was kind of like a pilot program where we kind of saw what worked and what didn't. So you're welcome, guys. I was the sacrificial lamb on that one. But we're just trucking along. We're helping out candidates, and I'm proud to have been a part of that, and I'm proud to be a part of it moving forward. But it starts with wonderful candidates like Mr. Martinez. So,
Marco, you're a great candidate yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, and I noticed that this is one of the things that your group has done really well, and that is to build up, to bring up, to help mentor some of these candidates, as you both of you. And again, congratulations, Henry, on your great turnout. 43.5%. That's remarkable. That is so good.
Yeah.
And again, you were running against an incumbent who is basically deeply rooted in that whole entire in all of Chula Vista. He's been there for a very long time. So well done. And so part of the group's effort, as you've been a product of, Henry, is this kind of walking through mentoring or just being side by side with some people. I think you had the honor and privilege of working side by side with Juan Hidalgo and also Mike Diaz. Is that true?
That's correct. Two wonderful men, great aspirations to become politicians. Juan Hidalgo, United States Marine Corps. Oh my God, he was boots on ground, set the example for all to follow. I mean, it was really hard for him. He had an entourage. It was hard for me to emulate. But I'll tell you one thing that I followed. He would call me, Henry, make sure you do this. I would call him, hey, this is what I'm seeing. So we would always talk to each other tactfully in a political world sense. So, both of us are in the military. He was boots on ground while I was doing his air support in the Navy. So we both went back into our roots into the military joint operations, and we created a small frontage here to the flank. And hopefully, unfortunately, how things pan out, we're waiting for the certification, the results come out. For me, an incumbent has been deep rooted for 16 years. Respect the man now. I mean, I can't say nothing bad. As a gentleman, as a naval officer, I'm very proud to say I ran a clean race. I did not talk about badgering or negative stuff. I just presented the facts and what needed to be done. For mentoring of the South Bay Community Service, our community club, a political club, we're here to mentor, right? Here in Chula Vista, here in South Bay, how do we inspire our youth, our future leaders to become stepping into the fire of the political arena and to make positive change? It is time for a new generation of leadership to cope with new problems, right? New problems and new opportunities. And this is where I believe, what John F. Kennedy stated before, and I was quoting him, for there's a new world to be won. And the new world to be won is by our youth. For people like Marcos, right? Marco and our South Bay community, if you saw, we were made up of a diverse age group, mainly elderly, but yourself and Marco, I'm trying to bring in. I got a 25-year-old that's interested to run for District 1, right? And there's an experienced person, Christopher, that is very experienced in the city of Chula Vista, maybe be running. We not know. I need to talk to him about that as a group. And how do we support our efforts for District 1? So here at the South Bay, we need to look strategically. It doesn't matter Democrat or Republican, right? We need to know who's going to be our person for District 1 to represent us. Since John McCann is going to be leaving us, he's termed out. So what does that mean for District 1? What are the issues and concerns in District 1? People need to be aware. And one thing I noticed here in Chula Vista, some of them, not all, are used just to go with the status quo. Right. Oh, well, I guess I have to pay 55 cents more on taxes. Oh, because I got to pay 55 cents more on other taxes because I need my pothole fixed, even though there's a funding already for it. So I'm just one small example of what I'm talking about. It's just a status quo. But there is a group that voted for me. The people that voted for me are the group of people that wants a positive change for Chula Vista, man.
Yes. And you mentioned the youth. So Marcos, that's a really important subject that we can't stop talking about. And that is, how do we engage the youth? How do we convince them that this is something that they need to pay attention to? So small example, when I was younger, I didn't have children until I was 30 something. And so for a long time, there was a lot of things I didn't pay attention to. That's a long span of my life of not paying attention to politics, to anything that had to do with politics. I mean, from the whole gamut, including child sex trafficking. You heard about that kind of thing, rape or kidnapping, and you're like, oh, that's kind of scary, but it never paid attention to it until I had children. When I had children, then I started listening. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so scary. What if that happens to me? And all of a sudden, I was paying attention to the conversation about, trafficking across the border, which is very real here in Chula Vista, right? So I was telling my daughter, that's the same thing with politics for you at your age. She's 15. How do we engage such young people who really don't care about any of that, but to start listening to ways in which they can get involved or at least educate themselves? Marco, what do you think?
Well, I think you talk to them you just talk to them like they're a human being. A lot of times what happens is when you're younger and someone who is of an older age than you starts trying to tell you how it is, it's more like you're being lectured to. I mean, we saw that how that went for Hillary Clinton in her 2016 campaign. You can't lecture the people. They're not going to listen. You have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to relate with them. You have to be able to make it so that they understand without saying, well, you know, back in my day, it was better or whatever, you know. You have to be, hey, you know, this is scary. It can happen to you. And they'll start listening. So the unfortunate part I did want to bring up, though, because you had mentioned sex trafficking and all that, is that a lot of the politicians down here on the southern border are not paying attention to that. They have other priorities in their mind, unfortunately, which is why we need to get rid of them. But we, as citizens of our society, need to start bringing it up, need to start making it known. There is groups out there that are doing that. However, you know, there's strength in numbers. So the more of us that are out there and passing along the message, the more these politicians, who in my opinion are very corrupt, will start paying attention. Because right now they're too focused on doing their own agenda that they could care less what we everyday hardworking Americans have to say. Unless we got a lot of money or a lot of people, they're not going to pay attention. And since I don't have a lot of money, we can all together get a lot of people.
Yes, I think that's really true, because one of the things that I've noticed is that we can have a great message, but no one's going to hear us if we don't have a good platform. And what's my daughter had said in this conversation is that what happens is that there are so many voices. So you talk about, you know, the adult talking about, oh, in my day, this, and that. That no longer is relevant. We need to change our language, because the kids don't really, that's not how they function. But on the offset, on the other side of that argument, she said that there are so many voices coming at them that they put up walls and they stop believing everything. At least in her case, she was saying, I don't know who to believe, so I'm not going to believe anybody.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
the point of that is that we need to be the voice they will listen to. And the way we do that is by having a good platform. And that does take numbers, and that takes, and it does take a bit of money. So right now, I think the greatest way to do that, really, unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword, is social media. So how do you handle social media, Marco? What do you think about that?
So I think social media is an amazing platform when you're not being censored. So, I mean, it's a great way to get information out there. Heck, there was countries that were receiving all their information from social media because their government was controlling everything out of the TVs, the radios. So all they had was social media. It was to the point where government said no more social media in those countries, you know? So, I mean, it's a great platform. However, in today's day and age, as we've seen, the social media platforms have a habit of censoring our conservative voices, which I find kind of disappointing and funny at the same time. The reason being is we're not conservative voices, we're American voices. When you think of the conservative values, they go hand in hand with being American. There's no one way or the other. You can't be a conservative or an American. You're an American. Unfortunately, the other side doesn't see it that way. They don't see it that way because then they know they have the losing message, but that's my own 2 cents on that one. However, when it comes to social media, I think we have to start looking for different alternative platforms. Like there's Parlors out there now. They're a great platform. I'm on their platform now, which is great. I love it. You also look at different news sources to get your daily information. Don't turn on the TV, go to CNN, MSNBC, all those. You can't even watch Fox anymore and trust what they're saying. What I like to do, and you don't have to, but what I like to do is I like to take both extremes. So I go on to the podcasts that are considered extreme right, which really aren't that extreme. And then I go on to the platforms considered extreme left. And whatever the heck they say that they agree on, you have to know that's a fact. Because there's no way in heck the right and the left are going to agree on something unless it's a fact. And then the rest, you just, all right, that's their opinion.
Well, let me add to this as well. And the message is to reaching out to the younger generation now. All right, we need to have a digital marketing strategy. That is a strategy to to make sure that we touch all the people, because like you said, young lady, your daughter was not listening to the elderly or to the voices. They listen and message through digital media, social media, Twitter, all right, Instagram. There's the other one. I can't even. There's a new one that I was part of. I can't even tell you what it is. It's so new. TikTok was not allowing me in there, but it was a live streaming. So why now also YouTube channel? So we need to do a messaging through a YouTube channel, through the true channel, that this media form. HTML websites are kind of out of the arena per se. They're old, right? They're stagnant. But the digital marketing is something that we have to generate for 2022 election.
Well,
Yeah.
if I may chip in, I say we even take it a step further, because it's great. You know, we're thinking social media, we're thinking marketing, we're thinking reaching out to the young people. But one thing that we have failed to do, which the Democrats have successfully done, is take back the school boards. So now why I say that is because our school boards decide what our kids learn on an everyday basis. Yeah, it's one thing to be an adult telling kids, oh yeah, back in my day, blah, blah, blah. That child knows eventually that adult's going to go away. But, and now if you have a teacher teaching our children that's the crap they're teaching them nowadays, you have to deal with that every single day. So even being someone who's like, yeah, I'm not going to listen, I'm going to put up that wall, there's still some of that information coming in, and that child is retaining that information, which is why you now see a lot of the younger generations coming out in support of communism and socialism and all that garbage. And it's because the Democrats have successfully secured the school boards in their favor. So now they're starting to indoctrinate our children. So I say what we have to do is cut off the, what is it? That three-headed serpent that was fought. You have to cut off all three heads. You can't just cut off one at a time. They'll just keep growing back. So I mean, we have to get at the source, and I think the best way is to start taking back our school boards. It's one of the many reasons I ran for school board. I have this passion for our youth, and it's not because I want to tell the youth how to live their lives. It's because I want to tell the youth, think for yourself. You're an individual. You have that power in this country, this amazing country that we were blessed to be born in, this amazing country people have had the privilege to immigrate in. We have laws. We have freedom of thought, freedom of expression. Now we have to enforce those laws and secure our freedoms.
Yes, absolutely. That's where that passion is. I've been waiting for that all hour. That passion is showing up, and that's exactly what
I think the Diet Coke's starting to kick in.
No, that's funny. No, I think that's wonderful, and that is why you ran for school board. Not a lot of people will pick up that seat or choose that fight, but that is exactly where we need to be. Is because the youth is what's really being developed. Are they being developed for the enemy, or are they being developed for the greater good? And unfortunately, you're right. They've infiltrated the schools, and they have taken over the ears and the minds of the children. So we need to take that back. The other thing that I was thinking about was in reference to children and to the youth and everything. Well, besides the school boards and social media, you know, there's so much out there that we do have to tackle. And unfortunately, when you said cut off the head of the three serpents, it just seems like a serpent or this enemy coming out at all angles, and we just can't let up, and we have to continue to just have hope that we will beat this, and we all have a part to play. And so I just want to thank you both for playing part of that, for picking up your cross, dying to yourself, and serving the next generation. And so I just want to say thank you right now. So there's a little bit of a sound or an echo. I'm not sure where that's coming from. So I just wait for it to go. The next thing that we really didn't, I think, spend too much time on is, what are your thoughts on what's happening in the Senate and in the House? As you know, or may have heard, right now we're at 49-48, I think the last I heard, with giving us just 1 over tie. But if it works out in Biden's favor, that might not really be enough, because Kamala Harris would ultimately be the tiebreaker. And as we know, there's a lot of people that call themselves Republican that do not vote aligned to the party. So what are your thoughts on all this?
Just quick thoughts on that for me is we've seen the past 4 years of both parties not moving forward in progressing to help the country itself. So my perspective, from my point of view, is that we need to stop playing the pandering and stop thinking about the people, the nation, and move forward and be productive. Be productive and pass legislation that would support and defend our country, not start using, like feel like it's a little small box of kindergarten box and people are not working with each other. So that's what I was this from both sides of the parties, both sides. I feel that it was romper room instead of respectable political campaigning.
Right.
As far as the current state of our Senate goes, I do believe if it was a fair election, we would have the Senate already. Unfortunately, not so much the circumstances we're seeing. It's funny because, election night, it looked like Republicans were going to take the Senate and possibly take the House. And you hear all these Democrats, oh, if Joe Biden really did rig the election, then they would take the Senate too. Oh, look what's happening right now, guys. It's time to open up your eyes and stop having that, short time memory. There's a lot of people who are perfectly comfortable with forgetting what these politicians said yesterday. They keep lying to their faces, and these politicians keep doing it. And unfortunately, these people haven't woken up yet. So what we need to start doing is we got to keep educating our fellow Americans. We're not all a bunch of dumb people. We just don't have the time to pay attention. A lot of us have to work, have to provide for our families. We have other things on our mind. We don't have time to say, who won this popularity contest? We could care less about that. We want to know how we're going to put food on our table for our families. And so that's why we have to take it upon ourselves as Americans that do participate in our republic. We have to take it upon ourselves to get out there and say, hey, you know what? You might want to pay attention. There's actually something going on. This is what I've heard. Maybe do a little bit of research. Maybe read a few chapters out of a book or something. But we just have to take it upon ourselves to educate our fellow Americans, because that's what it comes down to. If we're not what was that saying? Oh, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. But there's a saying about oh man. Well, whatever the saying is, we have to educate our masses, because through ignorance comes tyranny, and we don't want to see that in our great country.
Right.
I'm normally better with quotes, but it's just slipped my mind.
It'll come back to you. So speaking of books, one of the books that my daughter, back to my daughter, she's 15, and we were having a conversation, my son and I, and she says, the whole time you guys were talking, I could see the book or hear the book, because she read 1984 over the summer. She said, everything that was in that book, you guys were talking about, and it's coming to pass right now. And she was just astonished that somebody could write a book 100 years ago. I think it was before right around, World War I think is when it was written, and can predict what would happen right now. And I think it was in the industrial age when it was written. But the point is that to read books that are going to help you understand, our democracy, help you understand the Constitution, help you understand how we were founded, how things work, and why things are run the way we are. They're run. And again, back to the electoral process, why it's important to have an election system that we can trust, because if not, this nation will soon fall apart. And so that is something that we as individuals, and those of you who are watching right now, once you educate yourself, you can then turn around and help someone else understand why things are run the way they are run, and why we want to preserve that, and why it's important right now, not so much that President Trump wins, although there's a long list of reasons why we do want him to win and why he should continue to stay in office, but for the simple fact that if we can't trust the election process, that right there is why this needs to continue, why this needs to be sought out in the courts, and why the truth needs to be discovered, and why the censorship of all of the people reporting on what they've seen and what they've recorded in the polls and so forth, why it's important to expose all of this.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree 100%. I feel that it's funny they're calling for, oh no, election's over, stop the count, stop the legal process, stop this. Oh, that's an illegitimate process. Well, if you're so sure you won, why don't you let it play out in the courts and win again? Wouldn't that be better for you? Oh yeah, I won twice. But no, instead they know they did something wrong. And I'm not saying that the president that the president's campaign did something wrong, or that Joe Biden's campaign did something wrong. What I'm saying is there was factors that don't add up, and that may be just individuals who took it upon themselves, not necessarily the campaigns.
Right.
So whatever it may be, we have to let that come to light. We have to let the legal process take its course, and we have to have fair elections where every legal vote is counted.
Marcos,
Yes,
so
sir.
this is the last thing for me to go on closure before we close, right? So the Senate, right? Both Senate and House, both parties. And now I'm going to quote another John F. Kennedy quote. It's an amazing quote because it's true. All right, and it's true. This is true. Let us not seek the Republican answer. Let us not seek or the Democrat answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek to fix the blame for the past. Let us accept our own responsibility for the future. So John F. Kennedy is one of my favorite presidents, no matter what party it was. That's exactly what needs to happen for us today.
Yep, no, I agree. What we need to do is seek out the truth, because at the end of the day, we are the United States of America, and if we don't follow the truth and we don't follow the facts, our republic will fall. We can keep trying to make it. We can keep trying to make it by just barely, but eventually it will fall if we keep letting these lies come in and we start letting it infect the minds of our youth. There was a quote actually that was said by our president, Ronald Reagan. I used it at the last meeting because it's one of the quotes that just sticks with me. And it's that freedom is just one generation away from extinction. And it's true, one generation, that's all it takes. So we just have to keep fighting for it. We have to keep defending it, and we have to stop playing party politics, because at the end of the day, we're all Americans. It's one thing that bugs the heck out of me. You see Joe Biden go on TV. Oh, well, there's no red states. There's no blue states. There's the United States. Yeah, that is correct. But when you're telling people that you're not black if you don't vote for him, is that not divisive? If you're telling people, oh, yeah, no, it's all the Republican states, the reason why we have COVID-19, is that not divisive and putting a party to it? You want to be a uniting factor president, but you keep dividing the country. And that was my whole stick with President Obama as well. He was like, we're here for unity. We're here for change. We're here for this. We're here for that. Unless you're a Republican, unless you're someone who thinks conservatively, it doesn't matter. So it's just, I'm getting tired of politicians. And it's done from the right too, who keep saying, I'm going to be your savior. I'm going to be the reason why we unite as a country. But then they keep dividing our country. We've had enough of that. We need to vote those politicians out. And unfortunately, we have one that could possibly make it to the White House, God forbid. But, I don't want to count anything out, because we have to keep rolling and moving forward, and we have to keep working for a better country.
Yes, and that's a really good point. Being divided is definitely not something that we need within our own, borders. That's definitely how, a house divided will fall. And speaking a little bit about the spiritual, there's a lot of people out there who are anti-politics altogether. And being people of faith, we just want to also promote the message of unity. Speaking of division, we want to speak the message of unity. And how can we do that? We have, for instance, a neighbor across the street who's pro-Biden and cheering it, because of the win. How do we build the unity once again, in this tumultuous time? It's really, it's hard to see it on screen, like in social media, when you see people yelling at each other. But you and I, when we go out to the grocery store, when we go out to, dinner, we have to be the ones to first build the bridges, to first be the ones to, you know, to sow into and do the right thing. And so being people of faith, I believe and I trust that we will do this. We will be the ones to make that first attempt. So in our last few minutes, I just want you guys to just to give us a little bit of what it is, your encouragement on how we can continue to promote unity.
Extend that olive branch and forgive thy neighbor.
Yeah.
Forgive thy neighbor.
Absolutely. That's good.
I would say when all is said and done, just talk to your fellow Americans like they're human beings, not like they're enemies. You see that way too often from the Democratic Party. They're like, oh, you're bad, you're evil, you're racist, you're this, you're that. Well, we don't have to play that same game. Same thing with the election. We don't have to go on for 4 years about how we have an illegitimate president. We got to keep moving forward. We got to stick true to our values, and we have to remember at the end of the day, we're all Americans. We all are human beings, and we have to treat each other as such. I believe if we keep doing that, eventually they'll come around.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is Henry Martinez, ma'am, and it's an honor to be part of your group, part of this channel, and happy Veterans Day to all our warfighters out there.
Yes, yes. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you for the great advice, because yes, I think that number one, extending that olive branch, not being offended, and always forgiving. You know, you never know the story on the other side. There's always somebody hurting who lashes out with that hurtful kind of response. And if we could be the ones to extend, you know, love and mercy, then yes, we'll see the healing begin. So Marco, also, I agree 100%. And so I thank you both for your service, not only in the military, but also on the campaign trail. Thank you both for coming on today. I know that our audience is, you know, just excited to hear from you from here in San Diego. We thank you for our veterans, all of our veterans. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in again on the True Channel. This is Mimi and Vane. We miss you, Vane. And we can't wait to see you next week. And tune in from Miami, 4 o'clock. And here in San Diego, 1 p.m. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. God bless you.
God bless everybody.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. Happy Veterans Day.
Cheers.
Ciao.